After playing on a ton of hit songs in the 60s, basically for anyone who asked, in the 70s, you were established enough to be more selective about which rock sessions you would take on, and you concentrated more on television and film work. When you were recording a film score, did they always screen the footage that the musicians were accompanying? Because what I'm wondering is how you're able to read the music and watch the conductor and view the film all simultaneously.
No, well, the film is shown in the background. It's the conductor that will watch the film for the lines that come across and the dots, like for the cues and stuff like that. Yeah. When you do a score, you have to read every note on the part. If you screw up, then you can pack your bags and just say, goodbye to your musical career, because they'll never hire you again. You have to be able to read. But on bass, about half the time that they want me to invent a lot of parts too. So I had a lot of things to do, and it was fun. I enjoyed it. There was no pressure. The music, again, was pretty easy, and you had a chance to look at the music and psych it out, before you recorded it, too.
Right.
You have to be able to sight read, and for me, I had to invent lines, too, here and there. And it's all done with the click check. You're wearing earphones, and you hear that tick, 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 tick. It might be a different tempo. It might be tick, 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 depending upon the cue,
right.
and it could sound like it's ad lib, da 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 bum, do 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 do. It might be a thing, do 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 do. It might be a chase scene,
right.
And you hope to God that you're keeping track of those bars. It might be a couple pages long, and then you hear the timpanis come in here, and then you hear the trumpets there, and all that kind of stuff. It's a complex thing. You just have to be alert. You have to be able to play and read and create at the same time.
Right. I actually watched a movie last night called Airport that I know you played on, and I was trying to listen for your bass, and there was a scene, the first scene with Dean Martin and Jacqueline Bisset, and I hadn't heard your bass yet, and boy, I sure heard it at that spot.
Oh, no, well, the theme of the show, the very first downbeat is
right.
me playing there.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But I'm playing the bass bottom with also what sounds like steam. See, it's a steam effect, because I had about two or three effects, steam and clave effect. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
But if you really clue your ears into the bottom, I'm there.
Oh, yeah. Well, here's the issue. I was in the room with a sleeping wife and a sleeping baby, and I had to keep the sound low, so I wasn't.
Okay.
She even told me when the movie started and she went to bed, she said, that's too loud. And I said, no, I'm not going to.
Right.
But there was one scene with
a lot of music there.
There was one scene with Dean Martin and Jacqueline Bisset where the scene started. It was like all bass or something. And I said, there she is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know that there was one score that was particularly difficult, which was one of the Planet of the Apes movies.
Oh, yeah, Beneath the Planet of the Apes. They have like a 13/8 time for the bass players. Now, I'm not the only electric basses on there. I think that there are 3 string basses, and then Ray Pullman and myself on electric. And we looked at the music. We didn't know if we could pull it off, and I'm talking about horns and everything, and with odd times, one odd time with another odd time.
Different instruments were playing in different time signatures?
Yeah, to the same click track. And another one that was very tough was Downhill Racer. And to look at the part, it didn't look that hard, so I didn't really look at the part that much. And then all of a sudden we're cutting it, and that's when I just held my breath too, because I'm playing fast notes like ding dong ding dong dong ding dong dong dong, kind of a walking part, because he's skiing downhill. See, ding dong ding dong dong ding dong.
Right.
I'm sure there's a couple of strange notes in there, but you can't hear it because there's a lot going on,
Well, did the conductors ever make allowances for particularly complicated music, or were you always expected to be perfect?
It's like cut it or get out,
Wasn't there a score for Steven Spielberg's Duel where your bass was supposed
Duel, right?
You're supposed to imitate the gears on a truck or something
on your bass?
The gears on the truck, and I got paid a lot of money, and I just grabbed a couple of the low strings and go, like that, like truck gears and stuff like that. I got paid about 3 or 4 times as much for doing that as I did for Mission Impossible, that boom, 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 boom.
They didn't want to just use an actual recording of a truck. They wanted it done on the bass.
Well, they probably used part of that. I don't know. I mean, it seems like I did that quite a bit. But when I saw the film the other night, I didn't hear that much of it in there.
Right.
The thing about that movie too, because you're not looking at the screen when you're playing, but you'll turn around and peek if you're tasked at a few bars, because you're keeping track. 24, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, and done. You're keeping track of the bars, and so you can come back in, and so you take a peek at the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most of us looked at that movie on the playback, because they play it back. And we looked at that movie, and then that night when I got in my car, it was dark, of course. It's not nighttime. I get in my car. Now, I've always loved truck drivers because they would stop and help you, if you
mm-hmm.
had a flat tire or something like that. But this time when I saw a truck in my mirror, I freaked, and and so the next day I asked everybody, I said, did you get that fear thing when you saw trucks? And all the people I talked to, they did. They felt afraid at trucks then, so it's kind of a wild film,
Well, I guess that proved the genius of Steven Spielberg. That was his first movie.
Well, that's powerful. That's powerful. And a lot of times, you look at the movie, you turn around, and there's blood drops on the wall about as big as your head,
Yeah.
So it's pretty wild to look at the movie screen sometimes,
Well, since we're talking about movies, you played in the live orchestra at the Academy Awards twice. In 1970 and then again in 1971 with your good friend and collaborator Quincy Jones.
A lot of hours, a lot of boring times. And one year the music was fun, and the next year it wasn't that much fun. So I turned it down after that.
Did it affect you knowing millions of people were watching you, or not? You just shut that out?
No, you're sitting down in the pit. The pressure is on the conductor to make sure to give the right downbeat at the right time, because the show is live.
Mm-hmm.
And then the music that you have, there's choices for every category. So you have to read the eight bars or so. You have to find it real fast, to be able to read it. Yeah.
Yeah, they announced the winner, and you have to find the music and play it before they reach the podium.
1, 2, play. 1, 2, 3, mutes.
Well, that sounds pretty difficult to get a whole orchestra to all hit it at the same spot.
But that's what you got to do. You have to be real sharp. Now, I've cut the movie scores, since 1963, and I did a guitar thing on 2 film scores before that. So I'm an old hand at TV shows, Ironside and all that stuff, too, from early on. But after I first quit, in 1970, I came back about 7, 8 months later, and I wouldn't take any more of the rock dates. I'd worked for Ray Charles, and I worked for Nilsson. For Glenn Campbell, but then I did a lot more of the movies then too, and the TV shows, MASH, Hawaii 5-0, all that stuff too.
Right. And I'm wondering, in addition to the hit songs and the soundtracks and the Oscar ceremonies, there's another aspect of your career that's probably less talked about, which would be the recording of advertising jingles for commercials. I assume you did quite a bit of that. Are there any we might remember?
Well, Goodyear for one. We did booths for Nancy Sinatra. And it was kind of like a throwaway tune that was done the latter part of the date, and it was only 2 takes. Now, Nancy, producer for her, liked to hire 2 bass players, so they had Chuck Berghofer on string bass, and I was playing electric. And Chuck, on the very first take of it, Lee Hazelwood told him to play a line, to invent some notes, going down. So he went, do, 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 just wide intervals. And so they stopped the take and explained to Chuck, make them short ones, and that's what you hear, that do, 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 do. That's Chuck on bass, and then I join him at the bottom with a kind of a clicky sound.
You keep saying you got something for me, something you call love, but confess you've been a messin' where you shouldn't have been a messin', and now someone else is getting all your best. These boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days these boots are gonna walk all over you.
And that's Chuck Berghofer who came up with the line of the Hill Street Gang.
Hill Street Blues?
Yes, right. The bum, ba-da-doom, da-da-doom, da-da-doom. Now, he asked me about the picking, and I showed him how to hold the pick and do the picking. And then next thing I know, he's cutting that with a pick. I mean, but one of my former students, Jim Hewitt, also did that show about halfway done, but he did Chuck's line. That is Chuck's line.
Yeah, so that's actually Barney Miller.
Barney Miller, yeah. Right.
In addition to the session fees you collected at the time of recording, are you also eligible for additional royalties on all the great work you've done in the past, or is it just one payment?
Well, I mean, we do get a little bit of royalty if one of the hit records is used in a movie. You have to catch them at it, though, because there's some that I miss, and so I don't get the royalty for it. You had to have it all in by 1992, and since I lived out of state, I mean, I didn't know that I was supposed to be checking all the movies to see if I'm playing on it.
Right.
With the movies. And so some I've missed, but I've been able to catch most of them, especially the Beach Boy hits, and, Feeling All Right. It took us months I had to help them try to find the contract to Feeling All Right, because I have it in my log, but the contract was missing, and they still can't find the Pawnbroker film score one. That's gone. And the Butch Cassidy one is gone, too. They can't find that either. So.
Wow. Yeah, I think if I was you, I'd probably hire somebody to keep track of all that, and then whenever they found one, I'd, pay them per find. It's funny how you say you have to catch them at it. That's a funny way to put it.
Yeah. Well, we're just lucky to get about 1/10 of what we're supposed to get.
Right.
The union just doesn't have enough people working for them, so...
Well, it's probably not your favorite subject to talk about, but I think it's an important part of your story. So if you don't mind, I'd like to talk a little bit about the health problems that kept you out of the studio for nearly 2 decades. Was it arthritis?
No, I had an accident. And then it broke my teeth, and then I went into rheumatoid arthritis, which I didn't know was caused by the broken teeth, because I couldn't hardly walk and things like that. And I would juice, and I did the diet thing, and I did the vaccines and all that, and it all helped. But it really took getting my teeth out. As soon as I got rid of the cracked teeth and everything, then I was fine.
Wow.
But I still had a lot of TMJ problem, and this is from the accident, not from playing. So there's a doctor that operated on me in Boulder, Colorado, and I should have sued him, because he made me worse. And so I was literally stuck. I couldn't play. It was going through seizures and things like that. The only trouble I have right now is that I'm kind of tired. I didn't get enough sleep, and I'm on the coffee, and so I stutter a little bit when that happens. But when I finally moved back to California, I found a doctor that could operate on that TMJ, and he fixed me up, and then I'm fine ever since. I can play, and that was in 1994. So quite some years I had a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but the good news is you're playing again.
Oh, I'm fine now. Yeah. I'm okay. It's just I'm 75 and I get tired sometimes. That's all.
Well, even though you've played a wide variety of musical styles throughout your career, I think you're first and foremost a jazz musician. And 1999, you released a really terrific trio recording called Thumbs Up. I'm going to go ahead and play one of my personal favorite tracks from the CD, although they're all great.
Thank you.
This is a funky little blues called Head Start. It features Ray Peasy on saxophone, Mitch Holder on guitar, and of course, Carol Kaye on bass. Let's check it out.
Thank you.